Team, one of our favorite things in the martial arts for almost everybody is board break. Now, I grew up in a school where we did board breaking all the time. And one of the things I learned from Action Mt over the years is that I have to be retentive and really specific about how boards are being held. Because at the end of the day, I've been on a couple of black belt tests, and on my own fourth degree test, I had someone change how they were holding the board and almost break my arm. And I've seen a couple of other people, and the reality is breaking boards, the most important part is the holder. So we're going to do a little bit of a thing here where we're going to go through everything you need to know from A to B to be the best board holder possible. So come along this way because we need some visual aids. Now, when you look at this board, there's what we call a grain. What you're actually doing when you're breaking a board is you're bending the board all the way. So I can draw a straight line like me. So, assuming that's a straight line-ish, the board at the ends, everything from here to here wants to be a straight line, the way the board is cut. Now, here's the deal. At the end of the day, what I want to... Yes, I hit him! At the end of the day, I want to bend the board far enough that the board splits itself. Now, there's two ways to do it. The way most beginners do it is what we call a power break, where I have enough push. There's like a pop to your technique, but here and here don't move at all. Speed breaks, what you have to do is you have to break it before the ends of the board have time to move. That's a whole nother issue. So now what we need to do is make sure that with the bend of the board and what we call the grain, everything is set, because it really is only meant to bend in one direction. I can flex, let's see if you can see it, the board in one direction, but the other way it's really not set to do it. Now, if I'm working with a new team, then I want to make sure every single board is marked for where the grain is, because I've got the experience and I can train someone pretty fast to where it is, but it can be a little bit tricky to see. So I would grab a Sharpie and a 9-year-old leadership team member who's really excited, and I would have them mark straight down the middle, as close to a straight line as they can, of the way the board is breaking. And you can see the lines pretty well. And you might even have them write the board breaking time it is, like karate board break number 7, and sign the board, which is pretty cool. And what you're seeing here, the basic idea, whatever way the technique is going, you've got to go through the fold of the board, as if the board folds all the way around the side. Now, we got a lot of different types of board breaking that we could do. So we got to make sure that that line, that fold, has the correct spot for each kind of break, because if not, you're going to injure yourself. So there are a couple of different types of break that I recommend beginners do. Break number 1 is a palm strike. You need the line to be up and down. The only reason I'm using this rebreakable board is because it's going to save me a lot of trees later on, and because, like, I can do anything in one cutter shot, this is going to be terrible. You're definitely not going to want to see all the outtakes. Now, for the palm strike, a couple of key details. Number 1, you got to get it vertical. Number 2, as he extends, he's got to reach with his actual palm. If he drives, he wants to drive with the heel of his palm straight to the board. Boom. What I want you to watch him reach and touch where you get the spot. Boom. There you go. Now imagine you turn that hand. A lot of students will hit with not just the fingers, but like the front of the pinky. Or the top of the hand here. It's almost impossible to train a black belt to do this. However, boom, straight through. You want to drive all the way. The other very common type of technique for a vertical board being held is a front kick. He's got his guard ready position. I always make sure that they demonstrate before they do it, because if you have like a little champion, 4, 5, or 6-year-old, I'll do a little champion's front kick. Yeah, they're going to hurt themselves. So what I'll have them do is I watch it a couple times and get them to a place on a target where they're set to go. Then he picks his knee up and he's going to drive his front kick straight through. Boom, all the way. That's going to be our spot. And the goal is to really have that bottom of the foot pushing through. So there's the two that I would have where I was using a vertical. The next very common one is a side kick. Now, for a side kick, what we want to make sure is that the board is held horizontally. So if my line is right down the middle, we're right here. Now, he's going to step behind ideally, drive for the side kick, and notice how he hit me just in the hand. Now, this is a pretty light rebreakable board, but this is one of the reasons why we always want to make sure that as we're breaking the board, we're aiming straight for the middle, because on a heavier board, that's not going to break. He's taller than I think he is, so I'm going to move up. Boom, picks his knee up, drives the heel. Really important that it drives straight through. A lot of people will like move the board side to side. The other one it could be an elbow strike. So he's got his guards up. Now the mistake you'll see people make is they're going to want to try and like cut sideways through. He's going to drive straight through with his hip. All the way. Yes. And the way you know that you're at a good spot is if the board is almost in the middle of your chest when they're holding. I like front of the shoulder for me personally, but you got to make sure they get set first. Then he drives his elbow through and straight. Now, if we go into the next technique, this is really important. We're working on a hammer fist. So if I was going to have someone do a basic breaking set, I would always start with palm strike, hammer fist, elbow, maybe a front kick. Most students, you can train to do that in 30 minutes if it's their first ever karate class. With the hammer fist, there's a couple of things that are important. One, he's got to get that arm all the way up, and he's going to drop down onto his knee for his hammer fist. The next thing, he's got to make sure he's actually going through and almost trying to touch the floor, because I've got to find his height. The last part of it is, if you watch, as he does his hammer fist, he must hit going flat down. So take a slow one. Straight, boom, and aim with the top of your hand. I know you're trying to like mime it. Scoot back, boom. Up, up, up. Take it slow all the way through, and he's going to touch, boom, with the top of his hand. That's the spot that you want. The mistake you will see often is students will turn their hand and they'll hit here. With a very weak board, you might break it, but if you're starting to do like power challenging stuff, not going to end well. Now, stand all the way up. The other thing you could do from here, and I only recommend this for advanced students, is an inside to outside kick or an outside to inside kick. So he's coming inside out, he swings up, over, down, and a drop. And same thing for his outside. So, we also need to make sure that we're holding the board physically correctly so we protect our hands. Thing number one, as I'm holding the board, I want to make sure my thumbs aren't on the inside because the board's going that way and it's going to pop into my face. The second thing that I need to make sure is that as I hold out, I turn my face away one way or the other because there's wood dust that comes up, especially if you're using like the firecracker boards, or you might have a third part pop you in the face, which is not as fun as it sounds getting wood splinters in your eye. So you really want to get it out of the way. Now, on top of that, I want to press, and everything on the board should not move. So if I have, Charlie, come here. If the board is pushing me backward, that's a bit of a problem. I need to be a very strong spot. So if he pushes in the board, I want to hold steady. Well, this one, because it's a wooden board. I want to hold steady. Team, come on in. What we're going to need to do is make sure we've got a good, strong position. Back is up and straight. Now, if I'm a relatively like strong or large person, I want to also bend the board a little bit. I have dainty lady fingers, so there's no way that's happening. Some people like to curl their fingers in too. I also can't do that because then the board will fall out of my hands. I've got that spot right in the middle. I've got that person ready, and they do their break all the way through. That is a pretty easy board. However, the bigger the board it is, if you're like advanced students doing a power challenge, I gotta have a lot more resistance. Now, I might be able to lock my arms out, but eventually he's going to be able to push hard enough that my back may buck, or I've even had at times my whole body slide across the floor. So you might call someone else out. Now, if you're calling someone else out who's bigger than you and you can trust to hold a board, have them hold the board. But say I've got somebody who's a younger student, I would have like a Charlie, he's going to put his hand to the back of my shoulders, and his goal is going to push my back forward and everything. So I should feel that push, my elbows locked, and it gives me an opportunity. Option number two, you could have two people holding the boards so that we've got a really nice, strong position. Now let me have Charlie, we're going to switch to Mr. Knowlton because this is from back in the old school days where Mr. Knowlton and I grew up. Yes! We're doing for a front kick. Boom. So we're getting two spots. We're holding, and we want all corners held. We want to be in a pretty good spot, pressing forward, and we want our arms to be locked out. Now Mr. Gene Petrie, he's going to drive his knee up. He's going to drive his front kick forward. Boom. Straight through. And our goal is to get that out of the way once it's there, on top of keeping that at a strong, steady surface. Last thing, so if I was doing board breaking for beginners, I would do that palm strike, hammer fist, front kick. On top of that, if they're all new students and white belts, we never have them at our school start off with big, heavy boards. If it's just a fun event, I start with firecracker or the thinnest boards that I can get. Now, as we get more advanced, and if I have the experience doing it, we can start getting thicker and thicker boards for things like a power challenge. However, if we're just having fun or we're at a community event, ain't nobody gonna care. And if they do care, doesn't really matter. but we want to make sure that our students are safe when they're doing something new for the first time. And at the end of the day, for a student, especially like a 4, 5, or 6-year-old, we're talking about confidence with them. We're a brand new student, we're building that skill. As they get more advanced, there's other reasons to do board breaking. We still got to make sure we get it in. Now, if you like this video for our instructor training for our students, make sure you subscribe here, and we got a lot of other martial arts stuff that will be coming down in the link below. Come back here. Actually, break the board. Can you stay back my shoulders? See what they deal with every day?